a political earthquake has cracked open the calm facade of British politics, and at the epicenter stands Keir Starmer, his leadership suddenly teetering after a Supreme Court decision that may go down as the most seismic verdict of a generation. In one swift, uncompromising stroke, the highest court in the land exposed a secret strategy, one that sought to weave the UK quietly back into the European Union's regulatory orbit, bypassing Parliament and the public entirely. The shockwave started with whispers, rumours that Starmer's team was orchestrating a plan behind closed doors, while his public speeches dwelled on pragmatism and economic cooperation. But the truth, as unearthed by Britain's sharpest legal minds, was far more unsettling. The Supreme Court found that Starmer's administration had already begun embedding the UK into EU-aligned frameworks. Provisional agreements were inked. Policy drafts mirroring European law were already circulating. This wasn't mere bureaucratic tinkering. This was a full-scale stealth mission to roll back Brexit, without a single vote, debate, or ounce of democratic consent. The court's language was withering. Starmer's maneuver, they ruled, wasn't just unlawful. It was a constitutional breach and a moral failure. In a country where parliamentary sovereignty is sacred, circumventing debate on sovereignty itself is the gravest crime of all. And for a leader who had climbed the ranks championing transparency and rule of law, the irony was almost cruel. The legal challenge that triggered this bombshell came from constitutional watchdogs and Brexit campaigners. Their argument, Starmer's covert realignment violated post-Brexit statutes and disrespected the 2016 referendum mandate. The judges agreed on every count. The verdict was clear: this was not an error of process, but a deliberate subversion of democracy, a shadow rejoin, a plan masquerading as regulatory efficiency. The fallout was instant and savage. Nigel Farage, never one to miss a historic moment, declared the ruling a watershed for British democracy and called for Starmer's resignation before the ink was dry. Reform UK and the Conservatives pounced, branding Labour as architects of betrayal and accusing Starmer of treating the people's will as an inconvenience. Even within Labour, the atmosphere turned volcanic. Shadow cabinet members claimed they'd been kept in the dark, fed sanitized lines about building bridges with Europe, never told that provisional deals had already been struck. One backbencher, representing a Leave voting seat, called the plan political suicide. Another labelled it a betrayal of the highest order. As Labour's comms team scrambled, their spin, this was merely a legal clarification, fell flat in the face of the court's scathing rebuke. The story was out: this was systemic, not accidental. As journalists dug deeper, the scandal only grew. Leaked memos and confidential strategy documents surfaced, revealing not only Starmer's knowledge of the plan but his direction of it. One internal document, ominously titled Confidential Strategy Roadmap, laid out a step-by-step process for restoring regulatory convergence with the EU, deliberately recommending non-legislative tactics to avoid Parliament and the press. The initials of senior Starmer advisors adorned the margins. This was not drift. It was design. Labour's internal fissures widened into chasms. Emergency meetings were called. Resignations were threatened. Angela Rayner, the party's deputy, reportedly confronted Starmer directly, furious at being blindsided and worried about her own working-class base. The party's technocratic elite and its grassroots began to pull apart under the strain. Outside Westminster, the media firestorm raged. Polls showed Labour's lead evaporating overnight as swing voters jumped ship. Farage and Reform UK surged, capitalising on the sense of betrayal. Meanwhile, constitutional experts hailed the court's ruling as a landmark, a reminder that no government, regardless of majority, can alter the nation's destiny without Parliament's blessing. As the days passed, more revelation spilled forth. Secret meetings with EU officials in discreet European hotels. Proposals to rejoin EU regulatory agencies as observers, a technicality that would restore Brussels' legal sway without the political cost of honesty. Whistleblowers described a culture of paranoia and coded language inside Labour HQ, where staff were told to avoid leaving trails and public consultation was seen as a threat. When Starmer finally faced the cameras, his performance was robotic and evasive. He denied wrongdoing, insisted he was only protecting British jobs, and refused questions. the public wasn't buying it. Social media crackled with outrage. Polls slid further. Now, with Labour's election campaign on the horizon, the party is in meltdown. Emergency meetings, digital scrubbing, resignations, none of it can erase the central question: can Keir Starmer be trusted? This is no longer just a policy crisis. It's a fight for the soul of British democracy. And as the dust settles, one thing is certain: the reckoning for Labour's leadership has only just begun.